Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Let me try that again. Hello, everybody. Today's technology that's glitching is me. All right. Here's to soothing the ragged throat, shall we? Ah, what a lovely idea. So my name is Abby Haggard, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time. And this is episode 416 of my ABCAST series on Pivotry in motion, coming into our own, staking our claim and planting our flag, no matter how small. And I've been doing this since November 2022, twice a day, unless there was some sort of dreadful emergency, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 o'clock, Abbey, New York time. And the idea is to get us talking, get us walking, get us thinking, get us scheming, dreaming, brainstorming about the more efficient ways that we can connect and collaborate. There's all this stuff that's been going on for decades now about the efficiency of modern technology and all the appliances that you can buy and figure out how to use to save time. The thing is, to save time to do what else? What other? What different? What better? Because typically we don't. Typically we just kind of float. And so I've been talking to a couple of my fabulous clients recently, and talking to, of course, my partner, Gary, about the strategy that we have created moving forward. We started this last year. I had been doing the research since 2020. And what had occurred to me then and what is emerging now is that we have lost something. And we've lost it along the way, not because it was taken from us, but because we got busy, because we got distracted, because we allowed ourselves and others to kind of blur the importance of our boundaries. And the outcome of that, just not conscious action, but I don't want to say unconscious, but let's say distracted inaction. The outcome of that has been that we've sort of lost our way. We have allowed people to encroach. We have allowed ourselves to blur the lines of our meanings, our goals, our definitions, our ideas, our focus. And when we do that, it's a gradual, gentle slide away from excellence toward mediocrity. And now, when I say excellence, I'm one of those driven types. I was one of those very, very intense little kids who said, why? I have to know. And it hasn't really changed that much. But I'm not suggesting that everybody needs to be like that. Good Lord, can you imagine? What I am saying is that we can be quiet in our excellence. We can be understated in our passion. And we can be just very calmly, matter-of-factly, predictably focused on our purpose. We don't have to be flag waving, and we don't have to have a brass band. We don't have to be famous everywhere. What we do deserve is to give ourselves permission to explore the opportunity for better, for brighter, for cooler, for curiosity. And when we choose to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to give it a try, 100%. I'm not going to hedge my bet. I'm going to invest in me, and I'm going to see what is out there, what kinds of opportunities. And if I don't like it, I can go back to being furtive. I can go back to being uncertain. I can go back to blaming me for things that I didn't do. However, we owe it to ourselves to give it a try. Because why shouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we say we deserve better? We deserve delicious. We deserve awesome. Why wouldn't we say that? Why would we say, well, no, it's fine. Why would we live like that? And the answer is we didn't realize we were. We just kind of drifted. And we bumped into the weeds by the shore, and we haven't really had the energy to stick the oar in and push ourselves out into the current. So that's what this video is today. I know it said, how's the pre-holiday diet coming? That was a hook. However, it's not untrue what I'm talking about. Just give me a second. I have to do another sip. Good morning, Miss Maggie. I hope your ears were burning yesterday because you were the subject of a very intensive brainstorming session, and I can't wait to share it with you later. So yesterday, a very funny thing happened. Speaking of diet, I took a very lovely lady, good friend, close neighbor, for lunch at the Rideau Club. The Rideau Club is understated elegance and excellence. It is the oldest private members club in Canada. It came into existence 5 years before Canada. And so that's what that was. That's right, Miss Maggie, that's what that was. And we're sitting there, and it's a very prestigious, I mean, it's been around forever, right? And I don't know how I ended up there, except that somebody said, you need to belong to this place. This place needs you. So I've only been a member since the spring. Anyway, we're sitting there, and it's all very, you just sign for your meal. It's very insidious. Anyway, I'm looking at the menu, and my friend Linda's looking at the menu, and I saw two things in the appetizer section. And I thought, oh, that looks good. And so the waitress said, what can I, and I said, I tell me if I can do this or not. So you have this little appetizer, and then you have your fabulous Caesar salad. Can we serve that other appetizer on top of the Caesar salad? Like, can we just do that? And she said, oh my God, what a good idea. And I said, oh, you mean people don't do that? And she said, I haven't heard of anybody doing it. And I said, all right, well, let's give it a try. And then Linda placed her order, and we're chatting. Time passes. Somebody brings us our beverages, and we're chit-chatting. Anyway, the waitress comes back, and she puts plate down in front of Linda, and then she's holding my plate. And I said, yes. She said, well, the kitchen is very excited about this. I said, it is? Why? And she said, everybody thinks it's brilliant. I mean, look at it. And she put the plate in front of me, and I thought, well, that's fairly festive, isn't it? I said, are we going to call this the Abby salad? And she said, I think so. And I just burst out laughing. And then the bartender came to say, why are they talking about you in the kitchen? And I said, I don't know why they're talking about me in the kitchen. And she said, they're all talking about Abby and a salad. What have you done? And I said, this. And she looked and said, oh my God, that looks amazing. Here's the thing. I said, can we put this appetizer on top of my salad? I'm at the oldest club in the country, and this is the news flash of the day in the capital city of the country. I'm thinking, I don't know what just happened, but it's fascinating, and I'm going to try to dine out on it for a while. Anyway, it's a funny thing that happens when you drop a pebble in a pond, and it goes plonk, and a little ripple sort of emanates from the entry point. But if it went plonk hard enough and this splash comes up and droplets hit the water, when the droplets hit the water, they create their own ripples, don't they? And so you can all of a sudden, from a still, calm pond, you can have a whole lot of stuff going on. And this is the nature of the things we don't recognize in our moment. We don't recognize the outcome we are generating as we're doing, unless we're really, forward thinking. And what has happened to a lot of us recently is we have suddenly or gradually noticed that we're not the same. Something is missing, and we don't know what it is. And what kind of surprises us is that we don't really have a clear memory of a moment, a specific event that caused it. we sit and think, how long have I felt this way? And we can try to say, well, maybe it's since COVID, or maybe it's this since that, or maybe, I lost my job, or I got a new one, or whatever. But we're not clear because it didn't happen like plonk, splursh. It was small. It was insignificant. What has happened is not that it suddenly got bigger. It's that the ripple effects have impacted other ripples. And it is the combination, it is the cascade of coincidences that have created this shift. And when we finally notice it, it's a bit alarming that something has managed to sneak up on our inside so effectively, and we didn't see it. And what were we doing? And how are we busy that we didn't notice? And all of that kind of stuff. So I decided today in the video, I wanted to talk about the two things, wave to Maggie and wave to Freddie and wave to the rest of you, is this. We gather like barnacles, Rhea, if you're watching, we gather barnacle buddies along the way. Like the big whales that are now swimming up to the big ships, and ships are spraying them with detergent, soft detergent, and using brooms to scrape all the barnacles off. Because one barnacle compared to a whale is nothing, but 100,000 barnacles can slow a whale down. And if the whale has an agenda to get from here to there for a reason, it may not make it. And this is the analogy that I'm working with, that we have allowed ourselves to accumulate drag. Drag is what impedes our progress. You want to have something that is aerodynamic, that is sleek, that is as lightweight as possible, as maneuverable as possible, to be able to reach your optimum speed and your optimum efficiency. If you have drag coefficients, if you have these things that are slowing you down, you're using up a lot more energy to not get very far. And so you're exhausted and you still haven't reached your goal. Now you're disappointed. And then you don't sleep well. And so the next day you're exhausted and then disappointed, and you've lost your focus and you're making mistakes and people are complaining. And it becomes this massive overriding, colliding ripple effect. And it's affecting everybody today. So the conversation that I was having with Maggie, and that I was having at great length yesterday with Gary, is that there is something we can actually see if we know what to look for. There are moments, there are habits, there are assumptions we make based on vague ideas or just other habits. If you say at the beginning of a relationship, "Hi, I'm going to greet you at the door every day. Gosh, I missed you." And 5 years later, you can hear them coming, but you just have this thing you need to do. And so you keep going, and they come in, they say, "Hey," and you say, "Oh yeah, hey, I'll be right with you." So what happened from "I'm going to greet you at the door" to this? How did this random thing suddenly become more urgent, more important, and more valuable and more special? Scope creep, barnacle assist. How did we allow it? We weren't paying attention. We got distracted. We got accustomed to something we used to regard as special. It became every day. If your favorite meal is, I don't know, a steak or a beautifully cooked vegetable, and you have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's not going to take long before you say, "There's got to be something else in the fridge. There's got to be something else on the menu." No, I love it. It's my favorite. I just want to try something different. That's scope creep. That's barnacle resistance. And we are doing it to ourselves all the time, every day. And then the outcome of that is interesting. The outcome of that is we start to assume that we don't need to try hard because it's going to be fine. We've stopped saying excellence is my bottom line. We've stopped saying we have people who come in and make sure that before any plate goes out of this kitchen, it's exactly as the chef intended it to be. One day that person who checks phoned in sick, and the accountant looks at the bottom line and says, well, why do we need them? Because it's quality assurance. Well, you know what? We're fine. If somebody complains, we can get them back. And the next thing you know is the slow slip slide to mediocrity. And no one can figure out why people aren't coming in droves, why they're not lining up around the corner, why they're not making it their special go-to place for special occasions. Because they stopped caring as much. They stopped caring enough. They lowered their standards. And, by the way, lowered their efficiency. Because if you get it right at the get-go from the outset, you don't waste time calling in people at the last minute because there's an emergency. If you've got preemptive strike as part of your mandate, you're saving time and money and bad reviews and lost revenue. And these things are happening around us all the time, every day. And if we're allowing them to happen in our private lives, what do you think happens when we put on our office hat, we put on our CEO hat, and we go to work? Do you think that that hat has a whole different point of view? No, see, because it's a hat, it's us wearing the hat that says, you know, it's fine at home and we just do this. Why are we doing it here? And there we go. Yeah, right? So the topic today, how's that pre-holiday diet coming along for you? How's that working? Have you lost anything? Of course you haven't, unless you're really diligent. My dad had this amazing diet. It's a little late to try it, but it's not a bad idea to try for the new year. And I'm going to tell you about it in a second. What I want to talk about, how's that pre-holiday diet coming along, is I want to talk about what is one thing you're going to take off your list. What is one thing you're going to streamline? What is one thing you're going to do less of? Because if you take one thing off your list, you now have time. And you can devote that time, because time doesn't go away. You get 24 hours every day, right? So you now have, however long that thing took that you don't really need, you have that time to invest in something else. So for instance, suppose you just enjoyed an extra 5 minutes before you got out of bed. You just said, I'm going to give myself, and you hit the snooze button for 5 minutes. And you just lay there and enjoyed the fact that you had 5 minutes. Nothing wrong with that. There are times when I do that. But if you've got it on auto now, and every day you're giving yourself 5 minutes, well, what happens if you decide to make that your diet pledge from now till the holidays? And what if you say, I'm not going to hit the snooze button. I'm going to gift myself something instead. Because when you delete a habit, you have to replace it with a habit, and because nature doesn't like a vacuum, right? So what is something that you could do for 5 minutes? You could stretch. I don't mean do exercises. I mean, you could stretch. You could, shoulders, if you spend a lot of time on the computer, you could do a good stretch. There's a great stretch exercise that I do every so often. And oh my gosh, every time I do it, I think I got to do this every day, but I forget, right? The stretch exercise is easy, and I'll show it to you another time. There is some one simple thing you can do. You can put the laundry on early rather than waiting till the middle of the day. Just, shove it all in, put in the soap, and then push the button, 5 minutes. And that takes that off your later list because it's done now. And you feel terribly virtuous when you realize it's already done. The simple win is lose the thing that no longer serves. And now you have room for something else. You have space. Your clothing, your task clothing fits better. You got more time. You got more room in there to navigate your day. And when you do something like that, how good that feels to have removed a thing you didn't really need and replace it with something that you were going to do anyway is that's a kind of a pat on the back. And it's a good way to start deciding, what else can I get rid of? What else can I do differently? And good morning, Freddie. And the idea then is that ahead of Christmas, ahead of the other holidays that you celebrate, that we all celebrate, ahead of the time when there is an expectation, you have already gifted yourself something that's not only good for you, but it frees you up to do something else that you've been meaning to do. And I try to do that every time I'm looking at a special event coming. It's a birthday, it's an anniversary, it's this month, it's the holiday of such and such. And I say to myself, my weight loss gift to me for this holiday is, and I look at my list and I say, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to move this and replace it with that. And I'm going to see how I like it. I'm going to do it for 90 days and see what happens, because it takes 90 days to form a habit. And that way, the next thing I want to do, which is legitimately maybe lose some actual physical weight on the scale, or just get feeling more fit, more healthy, more ready for life, right? I've already got a win. I'm already in the win state. Now I'm going to ride that momentum. So anyway, let me tell you about my dad's diet. My dad would do this diet with us every year, starting with the American Thanksgiving. So last week. So it's only a month, right? And here's what you do. Before every meal, you drink a full glass of water. Doesn't have to be hot, doesn't have to be cold, but before every meal, you don't toss it back. You just, while you're getting ready to eat, you just walk around with your glass of water and you drink one full glass of water before the meal. That's the first thing you do. So that's going to happen 3 times a day. What that does is it fills you up. You are not then a raging, starving beast when you sit down at the table. You're also walking around sipping water instead of mindlessly snacking on something that you were going to put on the plate, and you realize you ate it all, so then you put more on the plate. It gives you a busyness, distracted habit to do that also has another purpose. So that's step 1. You have the full glass of water. Step 2 is you get a smaller plate. I don't mean a side plate. I mean, if you have a smaller plate than a dinner plate, and you have your meals starting the day after American Thanksgiving, not on Thanksgiving, you have Thanksgiving, but the next day you eat on a smaller plate and you don't fill it twice. What you can put on the plate is all you eat for that meal. That's the second thing you do. So the first thing is a glass of water as you're getting ready to eat. And the second thing is the smaller plate. And the third thing is you pick one day in the week, and that is the day you have anything you want, anything you crave. You only have one plate of it, and it's that smaller plate, and you drink the glass of water first. You can have anything on that day. You can have dessert. You can have all the things that you can't have that, you can't have this. unless there's a dietary restriction for your health, and you spend the whole day and the day before, obviously, planning, oh my God, what am I going to have on my day? And the reason you do it, there's two reasons you do it. One is to reward you. One is to stop making you feel like this is hell, what I'm going through. It's to reward you and say, you know what? This is not forever, and it's not all or nothing. This is, you get to choose. It's all you, kiddo, all you. And what that does as well, sneaky, is that when people go on diets and they say, normally I was eating 7,000 calories a day and now I'm only going to eat 500 calories a day. Here's what happens. The brain thinks there's a famine. The subconscious brain, the primitive brain, thinks there's a famine. And what it does is it lowers the metabolism to conserve and keep energy resources. So you don't get rid of the fat. You don't get rid of the starch. You don't process the processed food. Your body holds on to it. So the more extreme your diet is, the slower your metabolism becomes, and the harder it is to lose the weight. And that's depressing, because here you are acting like a Spartan and it's not working. And then you get fed up, pissed off, and then you eat everything, and then you gain more weight. When you have, they call that special day, the treat day, they call it a cheat day. But it's not a cheat day. It's a reward day. When you run the race, you win a prize. You cross the finish line. You get a prize. You get a medal. You get a ribbon. You get a congratulations. You get a cheer from the crowd. It's not a cheat. That's negative, and it makes you feel bad about yourself, which is really dumb. On the other hand, you say, this is my reward day. This is my reward all day for sticking to it, for caring about me, for making the decision to feel better, to look better. And all that happens is that when you start the day after American Thanksgiving and you simply do it, no fanfare, doesn't have to be special food. You just don't eat lots of everything that is going to pack the weight on. You eat a balanced meal. You have some green stuff. You have some protein. You have some starch. You have some carbs. You have some sweet. You mix it up. You don't have to only eat liver and lima beans. Thank you. You don't have to do that. You can just eat normally, eat less of it, and drink the water. If you'd also like to do some exercises, the exercises that you should be doing shouldn't be leap up, join the gym, run around, fall down, and hurt yourself. You start by doing some stretching. You start by doing some things that feel better. You start by doing some things that relax the overworked muscles if you're on the keyboard all the time. You do something that relaxes your shoulder if you're hunched over the keyboard all the time. If you're sitting all the time, you do some stretches with your legs. You don't have to join a gym. Give yourself permission before you sit down to eat to stretch. Give yourself permission after you've eaten. Clear the table, clear the food, do the dishes, put stuff away, and take 5 minutes to do some stretching. If you want to go for a walk, great. But you don't have to upend your day. You just give yourself permission to be a little more present. Because at the end of this diet, the present is, you look fabulous, darling, and you feel great. And you didn't have to do anything that went against the grain. And one day a week, once every 7 days, you got to party, you got to celebrate. So that's his diet. Now, here it is, we're coming into, where are we? We're the 4th of December. If you wanted to give it a try, you could give it a try for 2 weeks, see what happens, and ready yourself for Christmas. You could start it immediately after Christmas and say, I'm going to do this for a month. I'm going to do it for 90 days. And that way, by the time it's Valentine's Day and there's chocolate, I'll be able to have whatever I want. So my concept, my conversation, no second servings. That's right. I hate this liver and lima beans thing. Yes, you too, Freddie. Yeah, me too. So what I want to say in all seriousness, how's the weight loss pre-holiday scenario going? Is this: while we are becoming inundated by and overwhelmed with all of the focus and attention on a date and a time and a place and an event that we may or may not love, let's not forget the everyday. Let's not forget us. Gary and I were having our meeting yesterday, and I said, this is huge work that we just did today. And he said, it is. I'm a little overwhelmed, not in a bad way. And I said, you need some help patting yourself on the back there? Because I'm very, very happy to help you with that. We did good work today. We did exciting work today. And it felt amazing, because when you make the decision to choose you, and Maggie and I had this conversation and are having this conversation, when you make the decision to choose you, it feels kind of cool. It feels already then. And then there's that ripple effect of how good that feels. And it inspires you to want to choose you again. So I want to explain to you this hack that I challenged Gary with. I got hold of these Post-it notes that have lines on them. So it's like a mini foolscap, right? And it's got the gluey thing at the top. And I said to him, because we're focusing on this very interesting direction in our project, and I said, carry this with you in your pocket, in your pants pocket, in your shirt pocket, whatever. Carry this with you along with a weapon of mass construction. And every time a thought hits you, write it down and stick it on something. Stick it on your shirt. If it doesn't stick on your shirt, pull your shirt open, stick it on your chest, stick it in a notebook, stick it on the mirror as you're walking by, stick it on the wall, stick it on your computer screen. Put it someplace where later in the day, when you're ready to sit down and kind of sum up what happened today. And there's a cool hack that I use that I taught Mackie recently, and Gary knows about, to assess where you are at the end of the day. Pull out this Post-it notes. This is not the later folder. This is not take the crisis, take the chaos, take the stress, and jot it down to deal with later. This is not that. These are light bulb moments. Use the Post-it note light bulb system so that the fleeting what if doesn't get lost along the way. And what's fascinating about it, what's fascinating about it is, so you write the thing down. I need more Post-it notes. You write that down. And then something else happens, and you stick this someplace. Poof. And then something else happens, and you think, oh, that's a good idea, and you write that down. And you're busy and you're doing stuff, and you put the Post-it note someplace. And you go through your day. This is the curious thing that happens. At the end of the day, you get all the Post-it notes. Maggie uses a whiteboard. Gary's got a whiteboard. Lots of people use that. I have a very big calendar page, and I put my Post-it notes there. And you sit down at the end of the day and you look at the ideas that you had. And you know what emerges is a pattern. The pattern you didn't see in the moment, because you can't see the tree when that's all you can see, right? The pattern that emerges is the proof that nobody ever provides us when they talk about this whole thing, this law of attraction. They say, you know, if you see what you're doing in the past tense, that it's already done, that it already is, that we already are, then the brain says, cool, all right, and buys into the notion that we have arrived, and all of the things begin to materialize. Well, when you look at the Post-it notes, that's the proof. Because one idea randomly, write it down, another one later, we don't understand in the moment that these are the things that we were attracting. The ideas mesh, they connect, they enable, they create leverage. Taken together, they produce momentum. And that's why it feels like things are coming to us, that we raised our vibration, that we manifested. Okay, the terms are incorrect. What we need as the proof to believe in ourselves and keep showing up for ourselves is that it's true. So the quick thing about you have to raise your vibration. No, your vibration is always high. We're born resonating. You know, we're the same frequency as the earth. We're the same frequency as the trees, as the everything. We are there. That's us with them. All the molecules, we're all doing the same dance. We're all dancing to the same song. When our frequency drops, when our vibration drops, it's because of the barnacles we've acquired that are producing drag. We've attached ourselves to toxic issues. We have welcomed, or at least we have not rejected, unnecessary empty drama. We have stood too close too long to things that drain our energy, that are energy vampires, sucking us dry. The outcome is the drag. The outcome is the brain fog. The outcome is the exhaustion, the confusion, and the feeling that we're all alone and we don't know why. And we say, I don't know how to raise my vibration. Walk away. Say thanks, but no, not today. If we hold on to something heavy, we take on the weight of that which is heavy. If we wish to lose weight, let go of what is heavy. And oh gosh, would you look at that? There's a very interesting exercise that I have seen several people do. It fascinates me. It's a behavioral psychologist talking to somebody on one of these podcasts. And she says, put out your arm horizontal like this and think of something positive. Think of something amazing. Think of something that makes you smile. And so the person does. And then the psychiatrist tries to, and she says, resist me, and tries to push the arm down. And she can't make that happen. And then she says, okay, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to lie to me. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to lie to me. And then when you're lying to me, I want you to allow yourself to feel badly that you're lying to me because you like me. Understand? Keep the arm out, right? Keep resisting when I touch it. I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to lie to me. And she asks the interviewer a question. The interviewer lies to her. She puts her hand and she can push down on the arm. That's been tried and proven. Without realizing it, when we invest in a lie, when we invest in a betrayal of ourselves, we no longer have our innate strength and confidence and purpose. We drain our own energy when we choose to give up on ourselves, when we choose not to choose us. We diminish who we are. So that's not the kind of weight I want you to lose. That diminishing makes us feel heavy, makes us feel sad, makes us feel unloved, unworthy, unwanted. We're coming into a holiday season. For a lot of us, it's difficult. For a lot of us, we don't have the interest in a particular holiday. We don't have the people near us to gather with. And we don't know what to do. And all around us, we get the feeling that everybody else does have all of that. And we feel terrible. And we lose our energy. And we lose our sense of curiosity and fun. So this is why I say, try the pick me diet. Try the pick me aha tool. Celebrate the idea the moment you have it. Give yourself permission at the end of the day to see how they all connect. Because when you look at all of the notes you made to yourself, when you look at all the stress points that you look at in your later folder at the end of the day, and oh, by the way, you know that 5 minutes that you're going to save because you don't sleep in, you don't hit the snooze button? That's what these 5 minutes are for. You get to review at the end of the day. And what you're reviewing is how awesome you are, how much weight you've lost that consists of feeling unworthy, unvalued, unloved. You're lighter and you're brighter. And you say to yourself, this was my win today. And every win leads to the next one. And all of a sudden, you have a new habit that's working for you instead of against you. So just to recap, the no fuss, no muss diet, in order to drop weight very quickly, is you drink 1 full glass of water before every meal instead of snacking while you're making the meal. You use a smaller plate to put the food on, and you only allow yourself 1 serving. And the pièce de résistance, the finishing touch, you don't indulge every day in treats. You save the treats for the treat day. It's a treat, not a cheat. And while you're thinking about how this is starting to feel pretty good, you can do your stretching. You can do, oh yeah. And the thing that's perfect about this idea, starting it now, because you have 3 weeks, is that you will see results. If you'd started last week after American Thanksgiving, you'd have 4 weeks, but you'll see a difference. And that is an awesome way to head into a new year, ahead of the curve and ahead of the New Year's resolutions. So I hope that helped. I hope that served. And if you tell a friend about it and you decide to challenge each other and keep yourselves honest, then it's something to compare and it's something to laugh about. And it's the kind of gift you don't have to take back on Boxing Day because it's perfect in every way. So that's it for now. We have lots happening on the weekend, lots to talk about next week. It's going to be a bit frantic. It certainly has been a bit frantic the last couple of days, and it's okay because it's great, fabulous frantic. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking the time. I want to thank you. My gosh, how many people were watching on Tuesday. Holy cow, it was incredible. Thank you. We are unable to do this in this way without you. Without you, it's a rehearsal. You make it the show because life is not a spectator sport. So I want to thank you. And I want to thank you for coming back. And I want to thank you for telling your friends. And I want to thank you for getting excited about the ideas that maybe Abby's going to be doing something that I can get involved in because yes, she is. And yes, you can. And yes, we are. And that's coming soon. So be good to you all the time. And especially now before the holidays because you deserve it. And remember to hug your loved ones because they deserve it too. Bye for now.